In this lesson, we're going to learn about discriminant and quadratic formula. The first thing you need to write down is standard form. So we already talked about standard form in factoring. We need everything to be on one side. We need to equal 0. So ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 is the standard form of a quadratic. Your quadratic formula you've learned before. So just to refresh your brain, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Take a second, make sure you write that down. Super, super important. You have it written down and that it's correct. Negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now the first thing we're going to talk about is the discriminant. And the discriminant is just the part underneath the square root. So whenever I look at the discriminant, again, it's just that b squared minus 4ac part. And really important here, the discriminant tells you how many solutions you're going to have. So if my discriminant is greater than 0, that means it's positive. I'm going to have 2 real solutions. If my discriminant equals 0, I'm going to have 1 real solution. And if my discriminant is less than 0, it's negative. Think about this as underneath a square root. So if I take the square root of a negative number, I'm going to have no real solutions. Or I'm going to have 2 complex solutions. Right? They're going to have an I. And I gives me complex numbers. So if I'm taking the square root of something negative, we're going to have 2 complex solutions. Here's what this looks like. Solutions are just another word for x-intercepts. So wherever your graph touches or crosses your x-axis, those are your solutions. If my discriminant is positive, I'm going to cross my x-axis in 2 places. Now this parabola could look however you want, as long as it crosses in 2 points. If I have 1 solution, I'm going to pick this spot over here, my parabola would only cross at that point. So that would be the only point that touches my x-axis. And if I have 2 complex solutions, my graph is never going to touch or cross my x-axis. So 2 real solutions, 1 real solution, no real solution, or 2 complex. Let's practice finding just the discriminant part. The first thing we're going to do on all of these is label our a, our b, and our c. A is whatever's in front of x squared, so this is a 1. B is whatever's in front of x, so that's a 2. And c is your constant on the end, which in this case is negative 2. Now the formula I'm plugging into is b squared minus 4ac. And again, I know my b, my a, and my c, so I just need to plug those values in. B is 2, a is 1, and c is negative 2. Now this whole thing is just a number, so I'm going to type this in my calculator, see what I get, and whatever answer I have, that's my discriminant. So in your calculator, I would type in 2 squared minus 4 times 1 times negative 2. And I really should have put this first 2 in parentheses. We want to make sure we put everything in parentheses today. You will get some incorrect answers if you don't. So we type that in, we should get 12. Okay. Because 12 is a positive number, I have 2 real solutions. So positive number means I have 2 solutions. This graph would cross my x-axis in 2 places. All right, let's look at number 2. So first thing again, label A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 6, C is 9, and we get that set up with our same formula. So I have B squared minus 4 times A times C. And if I type that whole thing in my calculator, so I would have parentheses, parentheses 6 squared minus 4 times 1 times 9 and that would give me 0. Getting 0 as an answer does not mean that I have no solutions. It means that I have one real solution. So one real solution is all I got on that one. Go ahead, pause the video. You try number 3. Give me your discriminant and then what it means. All right, so on this one, you should have gotten -39. So you have, oops, sorry, everything's lagging really bad today. All right, so you should have 1 squared minus 4 times 5 times 2. And whenever you type that in your calculator, you should end up with -39, which means I have 2 complex solutions. No reals, 2 complex, because 39 is negative. All right, we're going to go ahead, we're going to use our full quadratic formula. So this is just the part underneath. We're now going to use the whole thing. And whenever we do this, biggest thing is we have to have standard form first, and then we're just plugging in our pieces into our quadratic formula, and we're going to type it in our calculator, and that is all. So to start off, I'm not in standard form. I need to move my 6 over to the other side. So I should have 3x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. I'm going to label my A, my B, and my C. A is 3, the number in front of x squared. B is 5, and C is -6. Now, whenever you're plugging into your whole quadratic formula, we're going to write it out where you're leaving parentheses for all of your variables. So that would be -b plus minus b squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. And from here, all we're doing is we're plugging in our A, our B, and our C. I don't know what is happening, you guys. This is being crazy. Okay. My B, -b, my B is 5, plus minus the square root of B again is 5, minus 4 times A, which is 3, times C, which is -6, all over 2A. And A in this case is 3. Whenever we type this in our calculator, really important, we're going to start with our fraction button first. That's the number above 7. And then I'm typing in everything in the top just as I see it. Your negative button is to the left of execute. Your minus button is above it. If you use the wrong one, you're going to get an error, so make sure you're being very, very careful with that. I start off with negative. That's the one to the left of your enter your execute button. So I'm going to hit negative parenthesis, 5 parenthesis. 5 didn't want. Okay. There's no plus minus in your calculator, so we're going to start with plus, and then we can go back and do the minus. We're going to hit shift x squared to get that square root, and I'm just going to keep working. Parenthesis 5 parenthesis squared minus is above execute, it's longer. 4 parenthesis 3 parenthesis parenthesis -6 parenthesis, and then the bottom you should have 2 parenthesis 3 parenthesis. I want to make sure that everyone typed this in their calculator. You're going to hit enter and you should get -5 plus the square root of 97 over 6. So x equals -5 plus the square root of 97 over 6. Now, because this isn't a nice pretty number, this plus minus is going to just carry down here and be plus minus. If you weren't sure, you can go up, you can edit in your calculator, and these do loop around. And if I go in and I change this to minus, I want you to notice the placement right now of the negative is up next to the 5. If I hit enter, it moves to the front. So this is kind of a weird thing that your calculator does, but it factors out those negatives. So this, they're expecting you to distribute back in, and it would be -5 minus the square root of 97. That's a little bit weird. I encourage you to just write in the plus minus whenever you get an answer that's not just a number. If it's just a number, you'll put the minus in to get then the other number that you would get. Go ahead, I want you to try number 2. So you're going to get everything on one side, find your A, your B, your C, plug into your formula, do all of those pieces. All right, let's go ahead, let's check in on this one. So I'm going to start by adding my 18. Add my 18, that would give me x squared plus 9x plus 18 equals 0. We're going to label that A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 9, and C is 18. And then we're going to plug into our quadratic formula. So I have x equals negative b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. And from here, I'm just typing this in my calculator. So again, to type this in, we're going to hit that fraction button first. I have negative parenthesis 9 parenthesis plus square root of parenthesis 9 parenthesis squared minus 4 parenthesis 1 parenthesis parenthesis 18 parenthesis, and then the bottom is 2 parenthesis 1. My 2 did not go. Okay. Oh, I didn't put my minus sign there. All right, there we go. So we type this whole thing in, and I get negative 3. Now, because I get a number, and just one number, we do have to go up and change our plus to a minus so that I can then get the other number. So I have x equals negative 3 and x equals negative 6. And those are my 2 answers. Sorry, my thing is not connected right today. All right, let's look at the next one. We're only going to do 2 more of these. First thing, I'm not in standard form. It's always in your best interest to keep x squared positive, but you can technically move pieces however you want to. I would subtract your 4x and add 5. That's the order that I would go in. So that would give me x squared minus 4x plus 5 equals 0. Again, I would label my a as 1, b is negative 4, and c is 5. And now we're going to plug all of those pieces into our quadratic formula. Whenever you're plugging this one in, because b is negative, it's very, very important that 1, you use parentheses in your calculator or you will get incorrect answers. And 2, that you're just mindful that that is negative 4. So this is minus negative 4, that's what I'm plugging in for b, plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. So be very, very careful. I want you to type this in your calculator. Make sure you get all those pieces in, all those negatives. We'll check in together. I'll get mine typed in as well. But you type this in for you. Make sure you know how to do it. Okay, you guys are probably faster than me just because this takes a minute to click through everything. If I hit enter, I get 2 plus I. You, depending on your calculator and the settings, you may not have gotten that. You may have gotten an error. So I want everybody to check their settings on their calculator. You're going to hit shift, the yellow button, and then menu, the gray button. You're going to scroll down to one past angle. It says complex mode. And if it says real, then you got an error. So a plus bi will give you i's in your answer. So you're going to hit F2 to change that to a plus bi. Hit exit, and now if you go back up and hit enter, you should get 2 plus I. If I go in and I need to change that to my minus to find the other one, change it to minus, hit enter, I get 2 minus I, which is what I should have because this plus minus is just going to carry down. All right, so I have 2 plus I, 2 minus I. If you want to write those as two separate things, that is a-okay as well. It is up to you how you want to do that. All right, very last one, all U. Get everything on one side. Be careful with where you put your 4x. Go ahead, pause the video, make sure you know what you're doing, and then hit play whenever you're ready. All right, last one, let's check in. So we move that 4x over. I don't know what's happening. That gives me x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 0. I have a, b, and c. A is 1, b is negative 4, c is positive 4. Whenever I plug that in, I should have negative 4 plus minus the square root of negative 4 squared minus 4 times 1 times 4 all over 2 times 1. That's a 1. And you type this in your calculator and you get the number 2. And then if I change my plus sign to a minus sign, I get the number 2. And so my only answer is x equals 2. And that's okay. Sometimes we only have one solution. That just means that this graph sits on the x-axis. It's only going to touch in one place. That should be everything that you need for your 3.5 assignment. Go ahead and get started and let your teacher know if you have any questions.